In this video, I'm going to continue with the if block statements and introduce if else. Hello. In the last episode for this series, I went over the if blocks, and this is a continuation of the if blocks. We're going to look at if else. And we're also going to have a look at the conditional statement in a little bit more detail, where you can add operators. So you can add things like and, or, not to the comparisons. You can add not to the comparisons. So let's have a little look and see where we are. So we go back to what we're doing here. Remember, we have these divisions. This one at the top here is deciding what the name is called. This is just a comment. And then we've got environment division, data division, and inside data division we have got working storage section, and we have just one variable called menu pick. And that has 9. So that means it's basically, it's just got room for one byte. So you can only enter one thing in there. And it's going to be a number, because it's a 9 and not an X. So we go into the procedure division. This is where you're going to have most of your programming, and in program begin and program done, between those two you're going to have these perform statements, and of course these perform statements are going to be pointing to some other paragraph that has to run, and then this one will point to another paragraph that has to run, and then of course we've got stop run, but these paragraphs are all going to be after the stop run, and I went into why that was in another video. So let's have a look. We've got here the condition. So we have the paragraph, we have the if statement, and we've got menu pick. If menu pick is less than 1, or menu pick is greater than 3, then display invalid selection. And then down here we've got if menu pick equals 1, say this. If menu pick equals 2, then we display this, and here it's the same kind of thing. So get the pick, accept menu pick. That must be the first one. Get the menu pick. So that is here, and then it does display the menu and then get the menu pick. So these are nested in here. So let's see it run. And it's asking us to pick 1 and 3. So if I do something like a -9, what do you think is going to happen? It says invalid selection, because the first statement here decides what that outcome will be, and it asks the question: is menu pick, which in this case is 9, less than 1? Well, yes, it is. Or is it greater than 3? Well, it satisfied one of those statements. And that's what or means. You know, so it doesn't have to satisfy both the statements, because that would be and. it has to satisfy one or the other of the statements, which it does. So it then displays invalid selection, which is this code down here. So let's look at this again. And this time I'm going to put a real answer in on between 1 and 3. So we'll put 3 in, and it's going to display 3 to get ready, which is the third message, because that's the statement, you know, does it equal 3? Well, yes. Does it equal 2? No, so that doesn't display. Does it equal 1? No, so that doesn't display. It does equal 3, so it displays this message down here. So that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Right? If we wanted to make it more complicated and turn this into like an AND, then we'd have to have some other condition that it could be. So let's put AND in there. If the menu pick is less than 1 and the menu pick is greater than 3, well, it can't be that. So it can only be or, because AND would mean that it would have to satisfy both statements, both conditions, but that only has to satisfy one condition. If we move on to the next one, let's clear this. And now we have a look at this program. Now this one's got 999, so it's got more memory that it can take. It can take 3 digits. If we look at this piece of code down here, we've got a similar if condition where if the number is greater than 10 and the number is less than 100, so you know it's got to satisfy both those conditions. It must be between 10 and 100, but not including 10 or 100. Then display the number is in range. And then we've got this new one down here, else. Else display this. Now we could have done another if statement there, but that would be a bit pointless. So we use else because it just makes things a lot simpler. And note that at the end here, we have no period. The period is just down here. It's not here. Whereas in the if statements there, to signify the end of each if statement, you have a period. But here, if you get an error, if you've got a period in there like that, that's where the error is. If we recompile it, okay, and now we run the program, and it says what to do up here. Enter a number greater than 10 and less than 100, which is what it says down here, right? Okay, so we see what to do. If we do 1, which is going to be a foul, it says the number is out of range. So what it did was it went to this statement here and it said, well, is that variable, is it greater than 10? And the answer is no. So that's a foul straight away. And then here it says, is that number less than 100? Well, yeah, it is less than 100, but it is not greater than 10. And it has to satisfy both conditions. Because if I change this to or, and then I've got to save it, and then I have to recompile it, and then rerun it. Now if I put in 1, what is it going to do? Because the number is less than 100. So it's going to display. It's going to display this down here. So we'll go back here and we'll see, just a test. And it says the number is in range, because that's the big difference between and or, right? I'll put that back. Recompile. And run. Now if I put a true condition in, let's do 45. And then it accepts it and it says, yep, this is between these two conditions, and it gives us the answer. There is something else. There is something else that we can do, and that is not. Okay, and you would put not in front like that. So if the number is not less than 10 and not greater than 100. So we save it, recompile, run. Now what happens? Let's do the fail one first. Push 1. The number is out of range. So if I run it again, and now I'll put a valid number in, 23, it says the number is in range. But what happens if I put 10 in? Because it says the number not less than 10. So what happens this time if I put in 10? It says the number is in range. So be careful when you're using these knots, because really to make that how you wanted it, because it says here that basically a number greater than 10, and that's not going to be greater than 10. It would have to be, you'd have to change that to 11. And the number not greater than 100, that would accept 100. So you'd have to make that 99 and then save it and then compile, run. Now, if I put in 10, it says the number is out of range. So just to summarize, the if statement has an else component to it that can be utilized if you want to, and it is very handy. You can use comparisons, and you can use operators, and you can use like more than one of them in a if block statement. So have a mess around with those, write your own programs, and just simple programs that just carry out those tasks of demonstrating those aspects. And remember to keep your code tidy. Keep it tidy. Make sure the period is in the right place. Don't forget that if you're using an if else block, then the period goes after, right at the end, after the else. So you can see that the if else block is actually a block. And where something is an if, then that's just a single block on its own. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, come and check out the rest of my videos, and have a great day.